Us now, managing partner of Pierre Debbas, joins me right now. Pierre, your take on the state of the housing market. Housing was one of the bright spots here, but now we're talking about trying to reduce prices, government intervention in some ways, and as I mentioned, an inventory shortage.
Yeah, Jackie, thanks for having me on today. I think the most important thing to discuss when it comes to the housing market is what will be done to add supply to the marketplace. And your biggest obstacle in that is labor shortages and supply chain shortages. Right now, we're sitting here with, we're talking about cost of lumber increasing significantly and how to get more product or supplies into the country. What are we going to do to get people back to work? And the labor shortages are a massive problem that any home builder is encountering at the moment. And without that being addressed, you're not going to address the supply of housing shortage that is really crippling first-time home buyers and the middle class. That's by far the biggest issue in the housing market, in my opinion.
That's the biggest issue. The second biggest issue that might be keeping people out is rising mortgage rates.
Well, I mean, look, the rates are up over 200 basis points since in the last 9 to 10 months. And it's trending in the direction where rates are going to continue to increase. And again, who does it impact the most? The higher end market or affluent buyers have other means of financing rather than taking a traditional mortgage or have the ability to pay cash. And we're seeing that jumbo loans aren't increasing the same level of interest rate increases as non-jumbo loans. So, unless there's government intervention to, address these two items that we're describing in terms of supply chain and labor issues and tempering interest rate increases, again, the rich are going to get richer and the demographic that's going to suffer is first-time homebuyers in the middle class. And we're seeing it now, which is very unfortunate because, in my opinion, a lot of this could have been avoided had we not, clearly we issued too much stimulus where people are able to stay home and there's more jobs on the market than there are people claiming unemployment. We need to get people back to work. And until that's done and rates are, increased in a more strategic manner, as opposed to having over 200 basis points in such a short time period, this issue is not going to get solved.
I guess that's what's bothering me about what you're talking about. It's not that I don't think the little guy should be able to buy his first home and get into the market. Quite the contrary. I think that's a really important part of the American dream. I'm just saddened by how we got here and now what the solution seems to be, which is more government intervention. It's like if we had just let the market work the way that it was working before President Biden took office, we were doing fine. And instead, that's an administration that came in and said, you know what, we're going to shut things down for another year and we're not going to let it get back to normal. And that's how we got here.
And how do you get out of it, right? So, one idea you can think of that is tax credits. When you want to get people back to work, you may have to incentivize them by giving them a tax credit that if they show that they gained employment in this year, at the end of the year, they get X percentage of their income as a tax credit. That may incentivize people. Reducing unemployment. Quite frankly, the unemployment, how that's been handled has been a catastrophe. And secondly, when you talk about developers are going to develop where the highest profit margin possible for them is. You may have to incentivize developers to have deed restrictions where they're selling houses to only first-time home buyers or primary occupants as opposed to investors. Because, the amount of money that has flooded the housing market from investors is a big, catalyst for why pricing is appreciated at such record paces. Yeah. So, when you talk government intervention, you have to be very careful because we've seen that have the opposite effect on the market. But I think by having certain tax credits and incentives for developing and selling to first-time home buyers, I think you can start at least trending in the right direction for how to resolve this.
We'll be watching. Pierre, thank you so much for coming on today. Great to see you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Okay.